University of Warsaw for having us here. And let me give the mic to the rector to welcome you all as well.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure and honor for the University of Warsaw to host all of you, but in particular, person who is changing the world. So, Mr. Altman, Sam, welcome to Warsaw University. I am absolutely sure that you will find great audience here and that you will make contact with them. And thank you for everything you have been doing. Thank you for coming. And we are expecting great lecture and great future, mostly because of you. Thank you very much. Welcome to Warsaw University.
So, just to give you some background, so I learned that Sam Altman is coming like 3 days ago, and I hope we kind of accomplish this mission impossible quite well. And I mean, it's not only because there are some ingredients, Polish ingredients to Polish AI, which you learn a bit, I guess, because they will come to the stage. But I think, I mean, it will be a great event. As one of my friends said, I did not study computer science to talk to people. And I think kind of he probably meant something else, but now we really can talk to computers. So please welcome Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. Then Wojtek Zaremba, please, the co-founder of OpenAI. Please come. And Szymon Sidor, the researcher working in OpenAI. Oh, well. And our today host, Sylwia Czubkowska, who will moderate the discussion. So please give the final applause and welcome.
Wow, what an audience, yes? Huge amount of people. It's wonderful that we got so many attenders during this conversation. So, first of all, Sam, Wojtek, and Szymon, thank you very much for finding this time for such a meeting. And as you see, there are a bunch of people, and I'm sure they are going to ask you very in-depth questions in the second part of our meeting, because there are going to be about 40 minutes for the questions from audience. So please, everybody, prepare your questions. And please make them tough, because, come on, only tough questions are really important. But before we start our conversation, I would like to assure you all, or any other AI systems, because I strongly believe in the power of human brains, and I strongly believe that we have a crucial ability to ask really important questions. And maybe as a warm-up, as a start, as a very short question, I've got a question for you all, guys. What are you doing in Warsaw? Why you decided to come to Poland to make such an effort? With whom do you have meetings to have such a long journey?
We're in the middle of a long tour around the world to meet users, to meet developers of our platform, to talk to people about what they want from AI, what they don't want. We really want to try to get out of the SF bubble. We just met the Prime Minister of Poland right before this, which was a great meeting. But this is always more fun for us. We love stuff like this.
Okay, any important news from our Prime Minister from this discussion? Come on, I'm a journalist. I have to ask such a question.
Yeah. No, it was a great discussion about how to balance the opportunities with AI and also a regulatory approach that makes sense, and how Poland, with all of the assets it has, can really be a major player here, which we're excited to figure out how to help with.
Okay, I will have some questions about Polish impact in building artificial intelligence. But first, we have this tendency to anthropomorphize AI, to see it as sci-fi movies and books shown us for the last couple of decades. But right now, when we are in the middle of this revolution, AI revolution, it doesn't look like that. So what we can suspect from the AI, like real suspect, and not in long term, not in 20 or 30 years, but in a year or in 5 years, what AI can really change in our lives?
Yes, so actually, I read many of the sci-fi books in the past, and actually, often in the past, people thought that the AI revolution would first show up in robots. So when I read Asimov books, he described stories of huge robots that cannot speak, that lullaby kids. And that turned out to be very different than the reality that we are seeing today. So definitely the progress at first is mostly in the digital space. And in case of digital space, it's the easiest to reach the large number of people, and there is also a large volume of actually data that has been created so far, which allows the models really to perform well. The places where I think that we'll see a lot of progress is definitely education. I also believe that the communication between humans will totally change. It will be the case that models are really incredible with translating between languages. I believe that they will have very new, like the interfaces, text-to-speech, speech-to-text, they will be just fantastic. I also believe that we'll see changes in healthcare.
Any other fields that AI is going to, revolutionize in a couple of months, maybe?
So, of course, that all depends on the developers as well, like what people will be able to create. But I actually think that, in some sense, every aspect of human life in some way will be touched by AI. Like I believe that in case, for instance, of the legal work, lawyers will be supercharged by being able to read hundreds of pages of work and actually understand what's going on.
Please.
One thing we really believe is that if you can give people better tools, the creative energy of the world will do stuff that you can't imagine to make things better. So we make the tools. You all have to figure out what to do with them, how to use them. But there's amazing energy happening. And I agree with Wojciech that this is going to touch almost all aspects of society. It is very interesting to me, too, that robotics was so hard. We started off with robotics. And it turned out that cognition is much easier than robots. It was exactly the wrong way, exactly the opposite of what everybody thought. Everybody thought first AI would do physical labor, then some cognitive labor, then the really hard cognitive labor like computer science, programming, and then maybe last of all, but maybe never, because maybe it's like magical and human was creativity. And it looks like it's going exactly the opposite direction. But I do think it's quite amazing. Like this is one of the more important developments in human history. We have an algorithm that can learn. It gets predictably better with scale. And we can do something called RLHF, which means we can sort of steer these systems to behave in particular ways. And what that will enable for the world, I think we're still in the early stages of, but it's going to be quite a big deal.
Right now you are talking about these very positive changes, but exactly a week ago, during your testimony before the Senate of the United States, I will quote, you said, if this technology gets out of control, it could be really bad. So what exactly we should be afraid of?
We started OpenAI first because of concern about what could happen if this goes really badly. I think with any very powerful technology, there's incredible, tremendous upside, but you've also got to manage the downside of it. We've dealt with this with nuclear energy. There's incredible promise of clean energy, also weapons. With synthetic bio, incredible promise of curing diseases, also synthetic pathogens that can escape from labs and cause global pandemics. So we have to manage things like this that have great pluses and great minuses. This will be one of the most powerful technologies humanity has yet developed. And so we need to figure out globally how we're going to deal with this, how we solve the technical safety problem, and how we want to build a system, how we want to build like a global system for governance of something so powerful. We just put out a blog post yesterday with some ideas.
I will quote you once again. That's from a piece of information that you wrote a few days ago, maybe yesterday, that we are likely to eventually need something like International Atomic Emergency Agency for super alliance efforts. So you see AI as a threat as big as nuclear energy and atomic? Because it sounds very harsh.
Yes, I think we should treat it as such. Maybe it won't be as big of a threat. Maybe there won't be that level of misuse. But I think from a principle of precaution, until we learn more, we should treat it that way.
Also, I would say that the fear is the fear of AI of the future, not the AI of today. So we think that if the trajectory that we are on will continue, then in the decade or so, there will be built systems which are as powerful as today corporations.
Okay, so long term.
So we particularly believe that when it comes to, that there is some threshold on the technology, that above some level, the companies like us, big guys, big fishes, they should be regulated, while actually below some threshold, we believe that the regulation should be way less stringent, and we are quite supportive of open source and so on.
But even now, we see some disadvantages of AI, and they are very crucial, in crucial fields. We see how it can help spreading disinformation, and we are in 2023. There are going to be a bunch of very important elections also in Poland. Next year, in 2024, there are going to be presidential elections in the United States. Aren't you afraid that also your products can be really dangerous for democracy? Because we've already seen what technology can do during the elections.
We are. One of the things that we're trying to do on this trip is speak to regulators around the world about what may come with misinformation, disinformation, and the new challenges. One new challenge is that these systems are interactive. So you could imagine having like a two-way voice conversation and think it's with your friend or with your parents. And it's totally with an AI, and it could be pretty persuasive if you don't know. And so passing laws about use of these systems, making sure people know if they're talking to an AI, making sure that companies like ours have monitoring in place, and also systems that refuse to generate certain things, and realizing that open source is unstoppable and shouldn't be stopped. And so this stuff's going to be out there, and as a society, we have to adapt.
Okay, so right now you are talking quite a lot about need of those regulations, but why didn't you wait with ChatGPT a little bit longer to prepare those regulations? For example, European Union, we are working on AI Act, and it would be a couple of months only needed to be ready.
Well, two things. One, we think it's very important for the world to have time to gradually adapt to these systems, to put them out while they're not that strong, so that people can get to know them, the risks, the benefits, and that regulators can get to know them. I think had we not launched ChatGPT, the earlier drafts of the EU AI Act were different. Generative AI was not a well understood concept when that started. People need time to adapt. You have to put these out into the world. An alternative where we go build AGI in a lab and don't tell anyone about it, and then 10 years from now push a button and we release this thing into the world, and it's super powerful. And the people of the world have not had time to give input for what they want, for us to make this decision together, for us to figure out how we're going to set the rules of the road and use the benefits and really shape this technology. We pay so much attention to what people want, how they're using it, what the upsides are. This trip on the road, we'll meet with dozens and dozens of regulatory agencies, but more than that, we'll meet with tens of thousands of people. And to get that feedback from people who are using it, for people to understand, hey, it works really well for this, it doesn't for that, here's a danger no one thought about, you can't do all of that in a lab. And so the process to get to the right thing has got to be iterative with society. We test a lot before we release it. Before we released GPT-4, we spent 8 months red teaming it, doing external audits, working on safety evals. We're not trying to use the world as guinea pigs here, and we're thankful that people have said such nice things about how aligned the model is. But in terms of how the world wants to use this, what the world wants the values to be, that's not our decision to make. And so people have got to get experience with it. And then the second reason to put it out there is like, for all of the concern, which is valid, there's tremendous benefits. I think this is reforming education in really positive ways. And I expect we'll see that from many other industries. Developers say they're like 3 times, 5 times more productive. That's really good for the world. You look like you're going to add something.
So
Sorry?
Were you going to add something?
Yeah. I was just going to say that also from our internal perspective, deploying those models to the real world is a hard technical challenge, and especially doing so in a safe way. And I personally, I don't know if you guys agree, but I personally didn't feel like GPT-4 was posing any existential risk when we trained it, but yet internally we proceeded as if it could, and we really thoroughly tested it, and we expect this challenge to become harder and harder as we produce more powerful models. So it was also a very important dress rehearsal for us.
Yeah, it's a great point. You don't want our first time with AGI to be our first run at this.
But do you feel that we are ready for those changes? I mean, aren't you afraid that you move a little bit too fast and you've already break some things?
It's certainly fair criticism. We feel like we're moving very deliberately. Again, we spent 8 months just trying to look at this model, engaging with people around the world. Most of what the world was saying, because it kind of leaked out that we're sitting on this, was like, you're so awful for withholding this, please deploy it right away. We need it, we want the benefits, we want time to see it. So we really had to stand up to a lot of pressure because we were going slow. But we thought it was the right thing to do for the reasons Shimon mentioned and the reasons I mentioned. But most of the feedback was in the opposite direction.
Okay. We are in Poland, so I also just have to ask some questions about Poland and about Polish input in OpenAI. We've got Wojtek and Szymon. Please tell us a little bit more about your work and how can also Polish perspective change building AI systems.
Yes, so Poland certainly had an impact at the company. I think there was a time at the early stages of OpenAI when we had about 50 employees, and around 10 of them were Polish. So there was definitely some impact on foundational skills. I think the strongest quality Polish community presented for OpenAI is just hardcore technical skill to solve, to push a lot of problems forward. Of course, there is a lot of very skilled people working at OpenAI, but I feel like the density of talent in Poland is high, and I think it contributed.
Wojtek, do you want to add something?
Yes, so I recruited smartest of my friends, and among them was actually a tremendous number of Polish people. There's like this micro-Polish culture within the company. And I want to say that actually, we got incredible education here. And we learn a lot, actually, from the universities, from schools over here. And I'm just like genuinely grateful.
It's also my university, so Warsaw University is the best one. But what can
I add one thing on that? I don't know what Poland does as a culture and a system to create such incredible engineering and research talent, and also such like rigor, which has been, I think, very important to OpenAI's success. But it's like quite remarkable the impact that it's had.
So what can we do in Poland to create or to leverage our own large language models to be really a part of this AI revolution?
So, the way, so I mentioned already that I think that AI will infuse every aspect of human life. I'm thinking about it maybe similarly to electric current, that actually at the moment it's just all around us. And it feels to me quite important at this stage to embrace AI. So, one potential way how people can go about it is actually we are scared. We don't want it. And, I don't think that will get the country far. And actually, instead, I would say, I believe that Poland should take the advantage of the talent and should actually implement AI all over the place. It should be implemented in hospitals. It should be implemented for governmental services. And there is a place for proliferation of startups to actually embed AI technology actually in every aspect of life. And yeah, that's the investment in the future.
There is one more issue that is very important, and this is the question that I get from Michał Jaskulski, and I have to just quote him because he's an author of this question. What actions should and could Poland take to ensure that our entire heritage, our literature, history, art, geography will be included in these large language models? In a meaning, if you are not included, you are not a part of building LLMs, you may be just forgotten in the next centuries.
Yes, so first of all, obviously, there is a lot of Polish data in our data sets, and as many of you are probably aware, like our models speak Polish quite decently and can reason about problems in Polish language. I think that particular problem you're asking about, I think it's mostly a matter of high-quality Polish data. So if you want to contribute to kind of advancing the progress there, I think curating and publishing high-quality data sets of large size and large kind of accuracy could be fruitful. Yeah.
Okay.
I have something to add. So actually, when we develop these models, one of the guiding principles are evaluations. So we actually measure performance of the models on the tasks. And then when the places where it lacks, we can put more effort to make them better. But actually, often we are even blind. We don't know that the model has some deficiencies. And it would be of a tremendous value getting the hardest possible evaluations to show where the model sucks, what are the places where it cannot perform tasks, and we have even a place to actually submit these evaluations, and then we have something to optimize.
Certainly making, if the Polish institutions, Polish government make available a great training set of Polish language data and data about Polish culture, I think many efforts, ours included, would be very happy to include that in the training.
Okay. So one last question that I just have to ask, because this is a question a little bit about my field. I mean, is it working? Oh, yes, it's working. Wonderful. So this is the question about a creative segment. And I would like to know, what does OpenAI want to do about copyrights and royalties as a part of building large language models? After all, without specific work from journalists, from artists, from writers, photographs, and so on, there is no AI.
Yeah. So there's like a legal question. I know it best in the US, but we feel comfortable about sort of fair use and how that works, and it's important. But morally, we want to get to a world where A, if you don't want us to train on your data, you can opt out, and B, if we do, if you're helping benefit the model, you get to benefit from that somehow. Now, there's very different opinions of what people want for that, so we're talking to creatives and content owners and journalists about the best model there. But then we want to find some way that works sort of around the world and for these different fields, that people who are contributing to make the models better get to benefit from that. Wojciech does a lot of work on our human data team, which is one place that's looking at this, but that's a place where I think we'll make a lot of progress in the coming year.
Okay, thank you very much. So. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Altman, Wojtek, Szymon, come on, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.